Well, Victims and Villains, my name is Josh, and I am super excited to be talking with my guest. He is one of the 5 directors that make up the upcoming Shudder release, Satanic Hispanics, Mr. Eduardo Sanchez.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I gotta say, I was talking to you before we started recording, and I absolutely adore everything about this film. I think this film is kind of the perfect encapsulation of everything you want from a anthology film, and it has comedy, it
Yeah.
has thrillers. So I guess like my first question is how did you kind of come to be involved with this particular project?
Well, first of all, thanks for checking it out and thanks for having me. It was started with Alejandro Bruges. We met long years ago we were shooting an episode of some episodes of Dust Till Dawn, the TV show, and we met. We're both Cuban, so we had both heard of each other, and I love his film Juan of the Dead, and it's so we became friends, and we've been attached to a couple of different TV projects, and work together whenever we can. And he called me up one day, and he was like, "Dude, we're doing an anthology with all Latinos, and it's going to be called Satanic Hispanics." And I was like, "I'm in, man. I don't care where we end up. I'm in." I had done 2 anthologies before this one, and one was went really well, and the other one was kind of a mess and took a long time to get released, and just different issues, and also I was like, I had been working a lot. I've been working a lot in television, and I'm just really lazy, really, what it comes down to it, man. So I was like really hesitant, but then he told me the name, and I was like, all right, I'll go and do it. And then he told me the other filmmakers that he was trying to get. He told me Mike Mendez was the guy that was kind of putting it together, producing it, and I know Mike too, so it was like, all right, this is gonna be fun, and just the title alone, like how do you say no to that? And you can envision the movie, like it's gonna have it all, you know what I mean? And I wanted to be a part of it for sure.
It has a great ring around it. Like it just kind of rolls off the tongue, Satanic Hispanics. And you mentioned working on previous anthology films. How does your experience with the past kind of compare to the experience working on this one? It sounds like you kind of were already familiar with some of the staff and some of the crew that made these stories possible.
Yeah, I mean, this one was a little, definitely a little more personal because of the Latino thing, and also we I mean, all of the anthologies, the filmmakers like kind of form their own little clique, and like kind of there's a lot of communication between each other, and we all support each other. But this one was I think a little more special just because of the Latino ties, and also the idea that like this was not that this is an important movie, but it's like we're trying to represent, and there was more. We had a little more responsibility on our shoulders. I felt like we definitely wanted to make something cool and make something unique. So there's more pressure on us, but I always have a good time, at least during the concept stages, like when the scripts are coming together, and I like this collaboration. It's good, and it's really like you rarely, I mean, unless you're doing it. Sometimes you get it on TV shows, but in movies you never really get the whole camaraderie of like directors, because usually you're just one director. So it's kind of a unique situation where we're all like kind of rooting for each other, and like trying to help each other, and trying to just encourage each other. So there's definitely that in every anthology I've been attached to, or been a part of. But this one, again, like I knew the 2 of the filmmakers, Alejandro and Mike, a lot better than I knew any of the other filmmakers that I had done anthologies with. So there was that. I had 2 good friends that were already there.
Anthology films in the horror genre are really interesting to consider because they're so vastly different to where sometimes you have like Creepshow where basically just a bunch of short films that are collected together by, a loose thread, whereas with Satanic Hispanics you have probably gonna I suck at other languages, so Efren Ramirez, who plays
Yeah,
the traveler in this, and
yeah.
all of these stories are kind of revolved around him, and I loved his performance in this, but
Oh, he's awesome.
he's so good. And I
Well,
also go
because
ahead.
most people know him as Pedro,
Hmm.
from Napoleon Dynamite. So you're like, oh, and then he's kind of unrecognizable once he starts, once you see, you realize, oh shit, this is the guy who did Pedro. It's almost like a completely different person. And yeah, man, I mean, I think, you're right. The anthologies, sometimes their weakest link is the thing that links all the films. And sometimes, like you said, like Creepshow, they don't. It's just basically, all right, here's another page of magazine of the Creepshow comic, and we're going to another story, and they have no relation to each other. And then other anthologies, they try to put them together, and sometimes, they're better than others. It's just hard. It's the person who makes the movies that kind of tie the films together. It's always the most challenging film for sure. And
Absolutely.
I think Mike just did an unbelievable job with just again, like just his storyline was cool. He got great actors, great performances. It was interesting enough. It was kind of creepy and it was funny when it needed to be, and it really kind of did. It's great like bookends and great interstitials for like the other films. And also it was the order of the films was going to be different. So when Mike wrote his film, and I don't know how he did it, man. Like I remember like saying, hey, we got to switch up the order, because we originally it was Demian's movie was going to be the first for sure, Demian Rugna, and then it was going to be Gigi's film. And they're both like the heaviest films, and we were like, and they were, I think Mike and Alejandro were correct in saying, man, we're gonna maybe try to put Vampiro in between just to lighten up the mood a little bit, you know what I mean? And then you can reset again, and get serious again. But so he actually switched the order around, and it was crazy that he was able to do that with, and you can't really tell. Mike did a great job, and I think it's, I mean, I don't want, I haven't, I mean, I've seen a lot of anthologies, but I think it's definitely one of the strongest, if not the strongest, like connective tissue between anthology films within the anthology that I've ever seen. So he did a fantastic job.
I think it also helps having a central figure with the traveler, and then the surprise at the end that I'm not going to ruin, but kind of having that battle essentially that revolves around the Ramirez character is the really connective glue.
Yeah,
And I love the juxtaposition. I love how each um kind of each segment is kind of different enough from the previous one. I think that kind of switching it up really works in its
yeah.
favor.
Hmm.
And you have one of two like the horror comedy elements segments in this one. And I gotta say, this is probably one of the best like concepts on a vampire like horror comedy that I've seen. Uh, and I guess like finding, because I feel like normally maybe it's just my generation that grew up on things like Twilight or Interview with the Vampire, where like
Right.
these these vampires have to be young and attractive, and you kind
Yeah.
of got go for the this guy's like older, he's maybe a little bit considered like out of shape.
Yeah,
And
yeah. He's not the typical vampire for sure.
could,
Um,
can you
yeah,
talk
yeah. I
about
mean,
crafting that story kind
y-
of to
yeah, I
turn
mean, it
that on
was,
his
I mean,
head?
the story was sent to me, and I was like looking for something At first I was trying to, because they were kind of like, hey, it can be anything, something to do with Latinos, whether it's like Latino actors or a story, about something, from our culture or whatever, mythology. And I wanted to do something serious, like really creepy and scary. And then this idea came across my desk, and like Jamie Nash, who has written a bunch of stuff for me. He's the one that sent me, and he sent me a bunch of ideas, and this was like the one idea that really stood out. It was kind of like this one night of like this really kind of dumb situation that somebody gets into, and the whole kind of film revolves around this one bad decision, this bad thing of like not knowing that it's daylight savings time. And I was like kind of really I've been looking to do something with Hemke Madera, which who's a friend of mine that I met on Queen of the South. And we've always been like fans of each other, and we were like, oh, let's do something together. And as soon as I read the premise, I was like, oh my God, Hemke would be good, because Hemke does a lot of, I mean, he does some comedy, but he does a lot of mostly he's like kind of like a tough henchman. He always plays like a bodyguard or FBI agent, and he's just super talented, but he's a really funny guy. And on the set he's always joking. And so this was a great opportunity for us to kind of come together and do something cool. And I sent him the idea, and he was like, oh man, so and it's one of those things where like in anthologies, you kind like, for me at least, you have to have like this, it's a short film, so you have to have kind of a simple premise, but that can be kind of explained very quickly, and then you got to get into it right away. You know what I mean? Usually, at least those are the kinds of movies that I like. So this one was just like, you immediately get it. Oh my God, he's got like 15 minutes to get home, and he's an idiot. He's kind of a dumbass, And it was great to see Hemke kind of having fun, and I got to shoot it like here in my hometown, and where I live, and I rarely get to film and actually sleep in my own bed. So it was quite it was a good time.
That's always a win from
That's always a positive, I rarely get to do that, man. So
I love Hemke in this. I think that he is just absolutely incredible. And his wife, I have IMDb pulled up. I'm guessing it's Patricia
Velasquez. Yeah.
Who's
great. She's awesome.
I'm always kind of curious when you are crafting a story, especially that revolves around romantic leads, and within a horror, it essentially lives and dies with like the actor and actress's chemistry.
Yeah.
And so can you kind of talk about how Patricia got involved? Like, did you know her? Did she audition?
No, I mean, Patricia is like, one of these just very renowned actress. And she was, I had never met her. I mean, I was a fan of hers, but we were going to cast somebody else as the wife, and that actress fell out, like not at the last minute, but a little, a month or month and a half before we started shooting. So I was like kind of scrambling, who's going to do it? Because, it had to be somebody, I wanted it to be somebody iconic. I didn't, I mean, we have a lot of great local actors, but I think with Hemke, I think for it to work, like you were saying, I knew that the relationship was so important to my film, and the thing about it is that, like you were saying, is that like romance in horror films is tough. It's tough to pull off, and like you were saying, it's so crucial to it really rides completely on the backs of the performers. So I was kind of scrambling, and Hemke was like, hey man, I know you know Patricia Velasquez, and she's really good friend of mine, and we've never done anything together, but we're like really, just always, we're good friends. And so I was like, yeah, man, absolutely. She would be freaking awesome. I mean, that was kind of like beyond, anything that I thought we were going to get. And she was really cool and was like, yeah, I'll do it, just to have fun. And that's the first time that her and Hemke, I think, have been on screen together. And the fact that they were like good friends and now, but they're playing husband and wife, I think there was like there was a relationship already there, you know what I mean? Because I'm sure they were, they were not, that they were married and or romantically involved, but the Vampiro and his wife are not really. It's not really. That's not much romance going on there. It's mostly just like yelling at each other, and so I thought that like them knowing each other and them being friends, they could kind of pull things out of each other, from the performance and really inspire each other. And she was cool enough to come, and she actually it was kind of a little wacky. Like she lives in LA. We shot this on the East Coast. And so we brought Hemke and her down, and we shot her first couple scenes, which was her at home in the coffin. And then we were supposed to shoot the next day, and she starts feeling bad, and she has COVID. And this was like, during the COVID time. Well, even now, I mean, if you have COVID, you can't come to the set. But back then, you had COVID, you're like, oh, you're done. You got to go and quarantine. And I felt really bad for her. And so she went back to LA, and we were like, I guess we'll pick up the rest of her scenes later. And this was, like I'm sure you understand. These are really low budget movies, man. Like you don't have much money to waste. You know what I mean? So. We flew her back, and then we finished with Hemke, and then like I'm not sure, a couple of months later, or we brought both of them back, and then finished. We did a whole day of shooting with them just to finish off their scenes. But and she was cool enough. I mean, look, we and Hemke was cool enough to come back twice. And and like I said, we didn't have any money, so it's not like they were doing it for the money. But I think they had a great time, and it was really cool. Again, working with Hemke and and working with Patricia for the first time, and hopefully we'll get to do something together. And really, I mean, like you opened this question up at the first of saying that like they really, I think they really did a great job. Like it's like when you're doing a horror film that kind of has like a little bit of a like sentimentality, as part of it. You're always they're always, it's challenging, what I'm saying? Like it's challenging to pull those things off. And I felt we like got something there at the end that was kind of cool and kind of unique for especially for horror movies. And it was all them, what I mean? So we cast it very well, got lucky.
Yeah, the two of them almost have like for those that haven't seen it yet, the two chemistry wise reminds me of like an old like sitcom, like husband and wife, and they pull it off really well. And like as I was previously talking about, like vampires have been interpreted in a multitude of ways. This one kind of goes the really traditional route in terms of like character design. Why did you, I mean, I'm just out of curiosity, like why did you guys choose to kind of go the more like classic, like traditional route for the design for the Hemke and Patricia characters?
Well, I feel that like really they're easier to parody, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And like you were saying, I think that if we would have gone with like super young and sexy, not that Hemke and Patricia aren't sexy, because they're very sexy, but more Twilight, I think we would have probably, I don't know if it would have worked, you know what I mean? Like it had to be something, like you were saying, it had to seem like this couple that had been married for a long time, you know what I mean? Like we were playing on these cliches of just people that are sick of each other. And my whole thing was like, well, imagine, most, a lot of couples are at each other's throats, just after 30, 40 years of marriage. Imagine being married, 150 years or whatever, you really get on each other's nerves. So, to me, that was like kind of, I think, I had to kind of rely on certain tropes. So the whole idea that, he has like mind control, and he at one time he could turn into a bat, but he can, can't turn into a bat anymore. Just kind of like, it's just stuff that you kind of, the audience, and again, in a short film, you don't have much time to like set up, mythology, or set up like backstory. So you definitely rely on like, oh, this is a vampire, so people know what vampires are. Oh, this is a zombie. Oh, people know what a zombie is, So you kind of have to rely a lot on like what, kind of the cliches that the audience is used to. And so, and again, use it either to like, just to introduce the characters, and then you could, do a twist and say, oh no, this is not going to be the typical vampire or the typical zombie or whatever. But you don't have much time to develop stuff. So I felt that like, or we felt that, kind of playing to like the classic, Bela Lugosi tape, and ruffled shirt, and
Yeah.
old style, like very class. He still has a flip phone, like he's very not does not know technology. He can't drive. To me that was like kind of it was just more fun. You know what I mean? And again, easier to set up for the audience.
Yeah, this is the last thing that I will say, because I don't really want to spoil it. I love how everything is kind of stands on its own, but yet at the same time, like it fits into the lore really well that the rest of the directors and the stories that this larger film has. I think one of the things that you guys did really well with your segment, and pretty much all of the segments as well, is really the attention to detail. Like there's so much, particularly about El Vampiro. Is that how you say it?
El Vampiro.
El Vampino. Is it
Vampiro, like vampire, but with an
Vampiro?
O.
El Vampiro.
And really Spanish sound, vampiro. So.
I think it's just that everything from its like setting to like the interactions that you know Hemke has with the police officers, and Patricia, everything really works and it fires on all cylinders. And it's because of you guys do such so much in a little bit of time. And I think a lot of that just comes down to the attention and detail, and how the characters are crafted, how the take on the mythology is presented, the setting, everything. And it works extremely well.
Well, thanks, man. I mean, I think that, especially on the other films, I mean, I like my film, but I really do love the other films. And I think that again, like I said earlier, like there was this, like none of us were going to phone it in. But yeah, man, I mean, that it was kind of like, it was a special opportunity for us. It was like, we were representing, where we come from, and our heritage, and we were, we took it seriously. We took it really seriously, and you can kind of tell that all the films are, labors of love, for sure. Even though some are very dark, there's definitely like you said, there's such attention to detail, and it just seems like we were all kind of swinging for the fences, and again, they all, there is this little kind of low budget feel or whatever, because we are trying to stretch our resources, but that that's kind of part of the charm, honestly.
Absolutely. Well, you guys can stream Satanic Hispanics exclusively on Shudder and AMC Plus beginning this Friday, March 8th. Eduardo, thank you so much for your time. Where can people find you online and find out more about what you have next?
I'm online. My group on Facebook is Hacks and Films, HAXAN. And I kind of go there every day and interact, and whenever we're doing anything, we post it on there. And then on Twitter or X, and on Instagram, though I'm not super active, but people tag me, and sometimes I retweet stuff. I'm on, it's Sanchez on the mic for both of them. And definitely got some stuff coming up. And thanks for having me, man. Thanks for promoting the film. I'm glad you dug it, and I hope the Shudder audience digs it as well.
Yes, I cannot implore you enough to go check out this movie. It is nothing short of incredible. It's a great blend of supernatural horror, religious horror, horror comedy, and it just really embraces the Hispanic heritage. And I love the fact that this is a film that is putting representation first and foremost on top of everything else. So please go check this movie out. You guys can check out our spoiler-free review on this channel as well as our mental health observation. Eduardo, thank you once again.
Thanks, Josh.